Good afternoon to all our participants. Welcome to this session entitled Future Proofing Your Organization, where we will try and address our conference's theme of designing a better future for the global breast cancer community. They say we now live in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous. The challenge before us then is how do we manage organizations so that they not only survive, but thrive amidst this scenario today and well into the future. To help us with our discussion this afternoon, we are very fortunate to have a well renowned high impact trainer, life coach, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur as panelist. He has had 25 years in the industry of leadership and talent development. As a business coach and consultant, he has helped businesses become future ready. In fact, as an entrepreneur himself, he has managed to future proof his own resto bar business that enabled his business to survive through the pandemic. He has also managed to future proof himself with his 4 kids, with his wife. Um, with his wealth of experience in working with various organizations and leaders, all these years have given him a better sense of what makes them successful and ready for the future. Please let us all welcome our panelist, Mr. Ardy Abello.
Thank you so much, Max, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon to everyone attending this conference. I'm so happy to be here. And Max, it's an honor for me to be a panelist here and to have this conversation with you about being future proof and future ready.
Yes. Well, let's get down to it, Ardy, and perhaps what we can have is a brief snapshot of what you've been doing, with these organizations. How do you help them get future fit?
I've been a business consultant, a coach, a leadership trainer for 25 years now. So that's a quarter of a century already. We've seen the acceleration. Before, as you were saying earlier, Max, VUCA was something that it was a catchphrase, or it was a concept that we used to teach even before the pandemic. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, all of these terms were just terms in anticipation of the future, right? Because we were seeing a lot of changes happen. And all of a sudden, when the pandemic hit, the last 2 years, 2020, 2021, even at the latter part of 2019, we're hearing these things already. And so it became real. So everything was volatile. You didn't know, life itself became volatile, right? We didn't know, even doctors didn't know what was going on, what was happening. So people had so much uncertainty going on. There was so much complexity, diba? And it was also very ambiguous. We didn't know the way forward. So we were all scratching our heads and saying, what do we do? In fact, I had a conference together with several CEOs at the time, and we were saying, all of us, and these are men, leaders of big corporations, and we were all scratching our heads and saying, so what do we do now? What do we do now? And because we had to navigate through all of this and take a look at what the future holds, even because we didn't know was it going to take 2 years, was it going to take 3 years? All we knew was that we had to take care of our people. We had to take care of them. And when you say future proofing, you can future proof using technology, definitely.
Yes.
We know of organizations who have built their offices to last for 5 years because their technology is before its time. However, even if you have high tech equipment in your organizations, if the people are not ready, if they don't have a growth mindset, if they're not willing to try things and make the mistakes, make the fail, so that they can move forward and progress, then all the technology is for nothing. And so therefore, when we came back and said, how do we do things? The first part of future proofing, or getting the organization future ready, is to start with the people. Why? Because people in any organization are what we know to be the most appreciable asset in any organization. Everything will depreciate. Whether you're talking about your equipment, even if you have high tech equipment, what, in 2-3 years that's going to depreciate.
Obsolete. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what you want to make obsolete, there's a business strategy called planned obsolescence. Instead of letting other companies or your competitor make your company or your products and services obsolete, make your own products and services obsolete. How? By creating better and newer products or
Mhm.
services, innovating.
Mhm.
And so that's the key when you talk about future proofing, but it starts with the people,
Mhm.
because all of the equipment, everything that they use in the company, in an organization, will depreciate, but people will not. They will always appreciate over time
Mhm.
if
And
mindset. Yeah.
what kind of mindset or way of thinking do you feel should be imbibed, no, by the organization's people? Are you your human resource? How do you make your own, as you said, very important resource, the people, ready for the future? What kind of thinking should they have?
Carol Dweck wrote a book about it, the mindsets, and she really talks about that, the growth mindset. And it's, again, the growth mindset was another nice to have seminar before the pandemic, and during the
Yeah.
pandemic, everybody's all of a sudden had the growth mindset. Why? Because some people lost their jobs. Some people, their income was cut. You know what I'm saying? And so therefore they had to try something, and they had to try something now.
Uh,
They didn't care if they failed, as long as they were trying
mm,
and kept trying and trying and trying. And so they developed a new skill. They developed a new way of earning income,
correct.
all the failures. And that's essentially what the growth mindset is. The growth
Mhm.
mindset is seeing or knowing that I can learn anything and I can move forward in all of these things, all of these learnings. But when
Mhm.
you talk about learning also, Max, there are three things to consider when you talk about learning. The first thing is, one is, before I go into that, I remember that Dr. Maxwell was in a conference, and he asked the question. He asked the audience this. He said, "What is the definition of an illiterate person?" And so someone stood up and said, "An illiterate person is someone who cannot read or write." Something,
Mhm.
yes, that's correct. And so therefore, today, he says, when you talk about illiteracy, no read, no write, with the advent of technology,
Mm,
even if you don't know how to read or write, you can get by in life,
mm, mm,
because everything it is on social media. Everything is on the internet. You can learn. You go on YouTube. If you want to learn how to prepare a dish, you go on YouTube. They'll teach you everything. You
right.
go to Reels. You go to TikTok. You go to all these sites. You can learn how to cook. You can learn how to fix anything. And so he says the new definition of an illiterate person or illiteracy is someone who's no longer willing to learn.
Mm,
If we're no longer willing to learn, then that's the beginning of the end, where
mm,
there's no more growth that happens, right?
mm,
And they say that the obstacle to progress for any person, any individual, any team, any company is not ignorance. It's assuming that we know it all.
mhm, mhm.
Because we've been in the industry for so long, or I've been in this position for so long, I've been doing this for so long, I know it all already. No. Learning is an ongoing process.
Mhm. Yeah.
True. Education, you're done. When you receive your diploma, your education is done. You graduate.
Mhm.
But learning is an ongoing process because the world's always changing. So
Yes.
number one is that learning. The second thing is this: um, people who are no longer willing to unlearn.
Mhm.
That's also key, because there are certain things that we know from the past that are no longer relevant, and so therefore we have to trash, put it in the bin, the trash bin in your laptops or in your computers. Put it in the trash bin and empty the trash, because that will not come back anymore. It's good for the museum. You know what I'm saying? So we have to unlearn a lot of the things that we already learned in the past, because there are better ways, there are newer ways, there are faster ways of doing things. And they said the third definition of illiteracy is someone who's no longer willing to relearn.
Mhm.
That became interesting, because when you talk about relearning, what do we need to relearn? We need to relearn the basics, right? Because foundations are very important. My dad, who's a retired architect, he says, no matter how tall a building you want to build, you have to dig deep and make your foundation deep so that that building will withstand the test of time, and you can keep building and building and building. And in the same manner, when we talk about relearning, what are the basics of success? What are the values? Sometimes in our quest for success or to get things done, sometimes we forget the values. So we have to relearn that. That's why they're called core values,
Mhm.
because everything in the organization can change, but your values should remain the same. It should remain intact all throughout. And we see this in many companies, right? We see many companies that have changed. They changed their products, they changed their services, leadership, even the vision has changed, but the core values remain the same. So these things we need to relearn, because that's what will sustain us all throughout the future. If even if you future proof yourself, you get yourself ready for the future, or your company get them ready for the future, those values will be the ones that will sustain you all throughout being future proof or being future ready. So it's really more the growth mindset,
Mhm. Yeah.
learning new
Mhm.
things every day.
Yeah, you mentioned about shifting or getting that growth mindset, and I think in our experience, as you mentioned in your statement earlier, a lot of the people were actually forced to good because of the imposition of the pandemic on their situation in their lives, right?
Right.
And in a way, what facilitated that getting into that growth mindset was they were moved out of their comfort zone
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
everything now is new. As you said, they need to learn, relearn, unlearn, and to be able to cope and to be able to adapt.
Mhm.
But that is sort of a reactive instance. No, what do you think should there? What are the practical things that organizations would need to do in order to avoid being forced to good or just be caught flat-footed?
Yeah. If you read the book, Good to Great
Mm-hmm.
by Jim Collins, he was our speaker in 2003, way back 2003, and he was saying that for organizations to go from good to great, in other words, always becoming better and better and better over time, right? Two things he said: preserve the core, which is your core values, preserve the core, and he says always stimulate progress, always stimulate progress. In other words, whether there's a challenge or not, constantly take a look at how do I stimulate progress for myself, for the organization. So it's always a good mental exercise
Mm-hmm.
where if you have team huddles or you have team meetings or maybe catch ups with direct reports or the people in your organization, is to constantly ask them to muse about possibilities a year from now, 2 years from
Mm-hmm.
now, given their particular work, right? So what we're doing essentially is we're expanding people to think not just the now, but to think about tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, once we have a good picture of that, then we now take a look at how do we get there from where we are, because there's going to be a gap, right? There's going to be a gap between what we want to see and where we are now. So what is the strategy now to move that gap closer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's very important is to constantly ask people, colleagues, to constantly muse about the future, muse about what. We were talking offline for those of you that are in this conference. We were talking offline with Max, and I was telling him my son, he's in grade 9 now. So in the next 3 years, he's off to college, and we have those conversations. We have those conversations where what is it that you want to do? So it goes beyond college. It's what do you want to do? What do you want? Who do you want to be? And in our conversations, it comes out that he would always tell me, Papa, I want to do something that's related to sports, anything about sports, because he's an athlete. He has that natural ability. He's kinesthetically intelligent, eye-hand coordination and all. And so being a student of my son, you can see now the path that he wants to go. And I said, You don't want to take over the business, the restaurant, no. You don't want to cook, no. Because he likes to eat, but you don't want to cook, no. I just want to do something related to sports, whatever it is. He wants to be a player, of course, but whatever it is that he wants to do, he wants to be involved in sports, the world of sports. And so that now expands, right? It expands now his thinking into who I wanna be later on in life. And then we plan out. Now we map out. Okay, what's the game plan?
Mm-mm.
So in a year, after grade 10, he's going to senior high. And so senior high school is gonna be in a university already, in De La Salle University, uh, because they offer senior high school already there. So that's the plan, because when he gets into college, at least he has already credits so that he can, hopefully he'll play in the varsity team or the UAAP. So that's important for us to constantly have conversations with people in our organizations to talk about the future,
Mm-mm.
talk about the future. If you all are familiar with the Gallup Strength Finder, that's an assessment to see what your talents are, top 5 talents. Interestingly enough, for this conference, futuristic is a talent, and that happens to be my number 5 talent.
Mm-mm.
So I'm always intrigued about the future. I'm always intrigued about what could be the possibility of the tomorrow.
Mm-mm.
So in a way, my head is in the clouds in many instances, because I want to see where my business can be. I want to see where my family can be. I want to see, even for my coaching, for my coaches, I want to see what is possible for them, what are opportunities for them, and then we just map out everything in the process.
So it's really important to have a clear vision, no, of where you want to be, what you want to do, and in that manner, you get to plan your way to that. No? So it's important to have that clear vision, and always, as you said, to have that curiosity, and always to try and stimulate that progress.
Yes.
But on practical terms, RD, for organizations, would you say that putting in place some sort of risk management and these continuity plans would be very important in, say, laying the foundation for future proofing, and then also, shoring up on resources and all that, uh,
Absolutely.
for because many of the organizations who are also present in our conference run volunteer organizations that help cancer patients, and they have a different set of challenges as well. um, what do you think can be their ways of, adopting and being ready for what the future holds?
Yeah. You said it right earlier, when you create a BCP, business continuity plans, right, and constantly reviewing your
Mm.
BCP, constantly reviewing your strategies for that, because we all know that before, 5 years was long-term planning, right?
Yes. Ngayon,
Now, it seems that 1 year is already long-term planning. If you want to plan for 12 months, it's already long-term.
yeah,
You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's
correct.
going to happen next month, right? So the constant review of BCP, the constant review of the plan that you have in place, is becomes critical. It's not even important. It becomes critical because tomorrow things could change,
Mm-mm.
later this afternoon things could change, or later this evening things could change, and so therefore the constant review of that is important. But at the same time, nowadays also, when we do a lot of visioning or revisioning for companies, there is another, normally it's called VMV, vision mission values, right? You create your vision, create your mission, then you take a look at your values. There's another letter that's added to that now. It's called P, purpose. Vision, mission, purpose, then values.
Mm-mm.
And I think when companies, yeah, give into that purpose, the reason why they exist, start with why.
Mm.
Simon Sinek, his books,
Yes.
why, right?
Yes.
When we become more purpose driven, or we become more purposeful in our way forward, the profits will follow.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Oftentimes when you look at, and I'm a businessman as well, so I make sure that I'm profitable. But it hit me and said, is that all business is all about? Is it just all about profits?
Definitely not.
At some point we will have to consider, why do we exist? Why are we here for our people?
I guess we have a lot more to talk about, but time is not on our side. I would like to just say that purpose is something very important, and the values, and I think that's the thing that will help our organizations future proof, especially if we're clear that our purpose is really to be one with our cancer patients and make things better for them, their experience, their journey, and I think that will help us find ways now to be there for them way into the future. So, Ardy, maybe parting words, and perhaps you can invite them, some of our delegates who are here in Manila, to your resto bar, and so that they can also donate.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe in closing, I just want to share one thing. This is by um the author of the Fifth Discipline, Peter Senge. He said, when you have a vision and you have reality, there's a gap in between. And he says that gap is what you call creative tension. And the reason why most of us are tense in life is because our reality is far from the future of what we want our organization, our lives to be. And he says creative tension is good because that reminds us that we have to be able to create a strategy so that it will move us closer to the future that we foresee. So think about it. If you feel tense, think, what else do I need to do to move forward? And may I invite everyone, if you're in the BGC area, my restaurant and bar is called The Keg. We're open from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. So if you're running a BPO, we'll gladly accommodate you even after your shift at midnight.
All right.
Thanks everyone. Max, maraming salamat. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ardy. And again, please stay with us for the next panelist in our session, How to Future Proof Your Organization. Thank you very much. Good afternoon again to all our participants. For the second half of our session, Future Proofing Your Organization, we will now take a look at an organization that has managed to future proof itself, having been in the business of helping cancer patients for the past 25 years and counting. To help us walk through their amazing journey to being future fit, we are honored to have with us the founder and CEO of the MAX Foundation. The foundation extends assistance to cancer patients across 70 plus countries in the world through a diverse team of 63 coming from 20 odd countries across the globe. Together with their partners, they have helped thousands of patients and mobilized millions of dollars in resources in their efforts at helping cancer patients. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us all welcome Ms. Pat Garcia-Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Max. And thank you for the invitation. It's my honor to be speaking with everyone today.
So, Pat, let us dive right into it. We have a lot to talk about, 25 years of stories. So perhaps you can give us an overview of what the Max Foundation is all about.
Yes, thank you so much. Like you said, the Max Foundation is a 25-year-old organization now. It was established in the memory of Max, my stepson Max. He was diagnosed with this rare type of leukemia, chronic myeloid leukemia, when he was 14. And at the time when he was diagnosed, first of all, it was before the internet. That's how old I am. It was very different back then to try to find the treatment for him. There were not really great treatments. And unfortunately, he passed away 2.5 years after he was diagnosed when he was 17. And I have to say, we established the Max Foundation so that others would not have to go through what we went through, hoping that we could help at least one more family not having to have this devastated situation that happened to us. And so it's always been about people helping people. We just had our knowledge of what we did to try to find resources for MACs. We had learned that there are resources out there that people are not aware of, and we want to make sure that people can have access to those resources. We started in a very grassroots way. We opened the email address help@themacsfoundation.org, and from day one until today, 25 years later, we receive the same kind of emails every day, all around the world, people that someone in their family has been diagnosed with some type of cancer. They have been told that there is a treatment for their cancer, but the treatment is not in their country. And I know, there is only one worse thing than hearing that your loved one has cancer, and it is to learn that there is a treatment and you can't have it. And so the Max Foundation, we say our mission is to accelerate health equity, because our goal is that any innovative medicine for cancer that is developed today can be accessed by anyone in the world that have it. And so but we really always are trying to help one patient, the next patient. And in the important moment in the life of the organization happened 20 years ago in 2001. Novartis was coming out with this really great, amazing treatment for the type of leukemia that Max had, CML, a chronic myeloid leukemia. It was a medicine called Gleevec that really changed the nature of this disease from the terminal illness that Max had to a chronic condition, as long as you take a pill every day. We actually learned of a patient that wrote to us that was looking for this drug. We called Novartis to see if they would help this one person. And at this time, Novartis was looking for a partner that would help them make sure that in countries where they didn't think they would commercialize this drug, that patients could have access to it. And they asked us if we were willing to enter into a partnership with them. And, the idea of being able to help people like us have access to this treatment, of course, we said yes. Of course, this had never been tried before. Nobody had ever done, because it's the model, which now is a 20-year-old type of model of patient access program that now exists, had never been done, of this international donation of direct to patient. So the company basically was donating the drug directly to the patient. Our job was to screen the applications, make sure the patients were properly diagnosed, and then tell the company to send treatment for that patient to their physician in 80 countries. So we started like that, not knowing what, but committed so much that we were going to help these families. And for 15 years, we ran this program that ended up even in the Philippines called the GPAP program, the Gleevec International Patient Assistance Program, helped thousands and thousands of patients in many countries for many years. And so I tell you the next piece of the story. These patients stayed on this treatment for many, many years. So we were very aware of them, and they were kind of part of the Max family, that we continue to follow these patients for many years. And as the years went by, two things happened. On the one hand, other companies started coming up with new of these type of medicines. And some of our patients started the medicine didn't work anymore, so they needed the second line of treatment. And so we would go to the other companies and ask them, would they help our friend? Because for us, every patient is our friend. Do they help our friend? And they always said no. And they always said no, but we never gave up, but keep asking. And at one point we had a dear friend that needed a treatment, and we went again to a company, and this company said, we will help your friend. And we were so happy. But they did not have the way, they did not have the pathway, this company, that, let's say, Novartis had developed, of being able to actually deliver medicine to any patient in any country. So they tried really hard for 5 months. They finally figured out how to send the medicine, and the medicine got to that country the day before our friend died.
Oh,
And we were devastated, and they were
I can
devastated. But
imagine.
that day I learned a lesson.
Mhm.
I knew it's not that they don't want to help always, it's that they don't have the pathway. So if we want to help, we have to develop this pathway, and we will set up distribution channels into
Channels.
all these hospitals around the world
Mm.
that, again, had never been done before by an NGO. We're going to set up so that any company that wants to help any patient has a distribution channel to do it.
That's great to hear. Yeah.
And so
You know, you have
the last
done a
7
lot of
years,
pioneering work, breakthrough. And it's really touching to learn of your journey where, it started with a pain of death that has been transformed into something very a force for good and something life-giving, as you've said. Before, I can imagine, as you've said, being diagnosed with cancer was already like a death sentence. But with all the technology and, of course, with the help of Max Foundation, all these are no longer true. No, the treatment is available, and it's really the challenge to, as you said, bring it to the patient and work with partners. Our previous speaker, a management guru, Ardy Abello, actually mentioned, and I think you touched on this already when you said accelerate health equity is your vision, the importance of an organization vision, mission, and values, your why, and as well as having a growth mindset. And I'm just curious, Pat, what your take is on this. Does it resonate given your experience in the past? And was it the same all these years, or did it go through several iterations to its present articulation?
I think the mindset has been there from day one. It comes from the knowledge, the personal experience of the urgency and the devastation of not having access to treatment. It comes from the fact that I tell myself many times, because the work we do is very difficult. Now we are distributing medicines around the world, which we didn't know, have any idea how to do. I tell myself, patients can't quit. You can't say like, well, I'm tired to be a patient, so I'm going to quit. They can't quit. And if they can't quit, we can't quit. So we keep going. We really have a very strong growth mindset, where I feel as an NGO, I feel that the resources that we have as an NGO are not ours. They belong to the community. We are the vehicle by which others are giving resources to the community. So I feel it is our obligation as an NGO to do as much as we can, as fast as we can. We should never feel comfortable as an NGO doing our work. So I do have this very strong sense of urgency and service to the community that we actually serve.
Yes, and I believe you have this set of core beliefs that you have in place in the organization. It's really very compelling. All these of course, human life has equal value, and then this, of course, the health equity that you were saying, and I guess it's also going beyond the ordinary, as you've put in your values, and looking for innovative ways. So clearly, values is really something, and vision is something that is key in terms of future proofing, as that has been the experience of Max Foundation. It was also mentioned that people, your human resource, are an important asset for future-proofing your organization, because it doesn't depreciate like all other assets, not unless they refuse to learn. No, and given the diverse background of your team, how integral were they in terms of carrying out your mission, your organization, to your silver anniversary?
I have to say, we have the most dedicated team around the world, and if it wasn't for them, I play a very small role. I just kind of point the direction where we're going, and they just remove any barrier. So they play an incredibly important role. And we have in our team, and like you said, we are now about 70, so we've
Mhm.
grown a little bit, but a lot of people have been with the Max Foundation for 20 years, 18 years,
Wow.
19 years. And
Wow.
they are the ones that, never give up, that solve any problem that they have in front of them. So we are a very close-knit group. We care a lot about each other in the same way that we care for our patients. Belonging and caring for each other are very important parts of the culture of the organization. And I think that that's what has helped us stay, let's say, strong, fighting for the patients.
Yes, and I can imagine, having come from various parts of the globe, that there would be a lot of learning that can be shared across your team, and really how to address all these challenges you've mentioned, the Herculean tasks before you. So that's wonderful to hear. The experience of the pandemic, Pat, actually challenged a lot of organizations, and unfortunately some had to wind down their operations or scale down. And I was just wondering what the impact of the pandemic was for the Max Foundation, in terms of how did you cope and how did you manage to go through that storm?
Yeah, what a moment for all of us. That
Yes.
I think it showed that organizations need to be flexible and adaptable for ourselves. We had some things in our favor. One was that we were already a very virtual organization because we already had a team around the world. So we knew that we were not all in one office.
Mhm.
So the transition that a lot of people had to do very quickly to being virtual
You already were doing.
was not so much for us.
Mhm.
We have such strong support from our sponsors, and they remained really committed to the partnership. So we were very lucky in that. Our biggest challenge, if you can imagine, that we were importing and distributing medicines in 70 countries when the pandemic hit and everything closed.
Yeah.
Borders closed, customs closed,
Yeah.
and people were stuck in their homes, and patients were stuck in their homes. But again, we work with about 600 physicians in about 200 hospitals. Again, they are also extremely committed. Anyone that works with us has the same grit and commitment. And so those physicians, together with our team, immediately had to find ways to get the medicine to patients. And so I have to say, it was extremely challenging, but we overcame and we came through, I think, the same way that we do our work every day, because our work every day is already very difficult. So I think we just saw it as, okay, there's a new challenge, and we just do whatever we need to do. And it was incredible. In the Philippines, they enlisted the police to help bring the medicine to patients. They enlisted the military, they enlisted the firefighters, like anyone in the community that was allowed to be out. Okay, make sure that you bring the medicine to the patient. So, it's still always people helping people.
I guess that's the proof to the adage: if there's a will, there's a way. And
Yes.
that's why they conscripted the military and the police, because at that time they were the only ones who were able to go around, to move around, no?
Yes,
And
exactly.
yeah, and it's true, because during the pandemic, in a way, cancer took a backseat to the pandemic, and sort of, sadly, a lot of patients had to wait longer, and it was a challenge, really. And but as you said, it seemed like it was just like a bump in the road for Max Foundation, having had a lot of practice with a lot
Well,
of challenging situations all these years.
I think
But
it comes because that very human approach we have, it extends not only to our team and our patients, but our partner, implementing partners, our physicians, our donors, like everyone is just a group of people trying to do the right thing and helping people. There's such a strong sense of that helped us. That trust that we had developed with our partners and our sponsors helped us get through the hard time.
I'm curious, Pat, given, as you said, that the partnership was also started with Novartis back then. Is there, because I come from the corporate social responsibility field, no? And I was just wondering what was in it for Novartis? I mean, was there also a way for you, and then how that model sort of helped you with the other pharmaceutical companies? Because I imagine that the relationship started it all. How was that?
I hope you believe me that it's always about doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing. We call it a humanitarian pact. These companies don't have to do this, right? They don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But first of all, we are very professional. So we do it very well. We minimize the risk, and we show them that there is a way to do the right thing. And so far, of course, it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more patients we need to help with so many more cancers. And we're happy to say that next year we're going to launch our breast cancer program.
Oh wow, wonderful.
This is why I'm so excited to talk to all of you.
Oh
because,
yes.
now that we have set up the whole infrastructure, we looked for where is a cancer where we can make a very big impact. And we believe that especially metastatic breast cancer is an area that is very neglected, and women with I don't have to tell all of you that it's very neglected. So we're happy for the support we have. We know there's a lot more work to do.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear, because here in the Philippines, breast cancer is number one, the top cancer illness. So anyway, the other thing you mentioned earlier, I'd like to touch on is the fact that, as you mentioned, you were already a technology savvy kind of an organization. And one of the key factors that was mentioned by our previous speaker was the importance of technology, digitalization, and data and analytics. I was just wondering what role does that play in Max Foundation, considering you're actually helping with these drugs, collating data, information, feedback, perhaps to your partner pharmaceuticals. So what role does that play in Max Foundation at the moment?
Huge role. I mean, we have a very smart data solutions team. We have developed our own software that allows us to track the treatment of each individual patient.
Oh.
And we are helping about 35,000 patients every year. And we can track their treatment one at a time, virtually, in a virtual environment. So we have been very good at the data that we track, that helps us manage the program and help us also produce a really good impact report, because we know what's happening with each one of our patients. So I think that's very, very important. And we started that way from the beginning. We started our data solutions piece. So I think that's something that it's good for NGOs to focus on.
Yeah, that's amazing. The ability to track all those patients and see the results, I think, will do wonders to all your donors, because they know that their money is able to create the impact. And even the corporate donors that you have would be very happy with such information. No? And that's hats off to you guys. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Pat, is, of course, one key factor to help you survive and move your way to the future would be to have enough resources. No? Of course, I checked, and a bulk of your funding is actually through donations in kind from your partner pharmaceutical companies. But at the same time, I noticed the overhead is quite small, as opposed to, and that's something I'm just curious, how does managing or having a resource mobilization plan in place, how do you fundraise? How do you make sure you have enough to do your mission?
I mean, that's a critical component of any organization, the fundraising and having enough resources to do our mission. Part of it is because we have such long-standing relationships with donors, and we have sort of shown over the years that we are very serious about our work, and we have been lucky to be supported by them. But we're always a work in progress. We always feel that we have to do better, and that we have to diversify our funding. If anything, for us, you've noticed, you look at our financials, right? So all this, the value of the drugs come into our as revenue. So it's, I don't know, $500 million or something,
Yes,
right?
almost.
So we've gone from very small to very big, and that it's sort of a challenge in itself to manage that. But we're very resource conscious. We are very good at not overspending, where even our data solutions have allowed us to be very lean. So we have a very lean team. Even, we're helping thousands of patients with hundreds of millions of dollars in drug, and we have only 70 people around the world.
Right,
That's a
right.
very small team.
I know.
Because we are very conscious that in not just wasting resources like we know. So I can't say we are where we want with fundraising. I think we want, especially we want to diversify. Our issue is diversifying because we have such big donors that it offsets, and I'm being very open and transparent, it offsets all the other fundraising that we do. When you have somebody that's giving you, I don't know, $300 million, how do you even compare to that, right? So we're always working really hard to get better at diversifying our funding. That's one of our 5-year goals in this new strategic plan that we have, is diversifying our funding.
All right. So there's always room for growth, as you can see, Pat.
Every day, every day.
That's the growth mindset for you, our dear audience. One key factor to future proofing is having that growth mindset, always trying to get better. Okay. Maybe Pat, I think we need to wind down already. Perhaps you would like to have a parting message to our participants this afternoon.
Yeah, since I am now older than most participants, I think, I don't know. I feel like I can give advice since I've been doing this now for some years. Some of the most important lessons as a leader that I think about every day, that I want to make sure people know. Last year, a book came out on leadership called Unleashed by Francis Frey. People should look it up. In the first page, the author says, the biggest lesson that I learned, leadership is not about you. It's not about you. It's about the other person with whom you're interacting. And your role as a leader is to help the other person. Your role as a leader is to help your organization. So every day I tell myself, it's not about me. And so I think, I'm very clear, I'm trying to do what's best for the organization and not for me. And many of us, especially those like me that found an organization, it's all about us and what we want to do. And we pour our soul and heart into the organization. And at some point you have to decide, someday, since we are human, and as advocates, sometimes we think we're God, but we're not God. We are human. We are human. One day I will not be here. Do I want this organization to continue? And so everything I do is I do my best for what I think the organization needs, for what I think the patients need. It's not about me. And I think that that's one of the things that everybody should think about, and try to separate themselves, to the extent that we can help, then we should help, but it's not about us.
Yes, that's a very beautiful insight, Pat. As I guess that's really part of what they would call the founder's challenge, that uh, somehow you get so into it that you forget that you're finite as well, and that in order
Yes.
to sustain the organization, there's a need to sort of professionalize and render yourself obsolete,
Yep.
and that hopefully pass on the torch to the next leader. No? And I guess that's one challenge that we will have to do, dear participants, in terms of future proofing our organization, that we ensure the leadership succession is there, and that the shared vision is passed on to a competent one that will help ensure, just like Max Foundation, they will last 25 years and onwards again to the next 25 years. So
I hope.
thank you very much, Pat. It was wonderful talking to you, learning about the Max Foundation. It's not mine, but it's good to know that there's a Max Foundation out there. So thank you very much, and more power to you and your team. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for everyone in the audience that's working every day to help patients. It's so important. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.